Understanding that we are an infinitesimal part of the universe puts things in perspective. The stupid remarks or small errors in judgment that feel cataclysmic to us in the moment should hardly matter when we consider that the Earth has existed for 4.5 billion years and our average lifespan is only 79 of them. Like bugs, we are operating on a limited scale. The strongest ant in the colony may be able to carry 1,000 times its body weight, but that's still only a fraction of an ounce. So why take ourselves so seriously if even the people with the greatest accomplishments go the way of the dodo? Because it's all we have. Caring, that is. Those are the words of my next guest. He's an author of an upcoming book called Objects in the Mirror, Thoughts on a Perfect Life from an Imperfect Man. And it's coming out in the beginning of June, I believe. He's a father of four. He's married to his childhood sweetheart. He's done a TED Talk. And by the way, he's a rock star. It's Stephen Kellogg, who's been here before. Stephen, you're back.
I'm glad to be back. Nice to chat, Mark.
And you just came back from the post office putting all those books in the mail to all the people who pre-ordered.
I know. That's things that were never on your list when you said you wanted to become a rock star. You never thought of yourself stuffing envelopes and hitting the post office. But I have to say, I really like that part of the job.
And you had your five helpers and.
Oh man, yeah, I put my kids, my four kids, and my wife are. It's luckily we do like each other, but we put it to the test packing packages this week for sure.
Yeah, and I bet your wife had it all organized too and ready to go, and you were just holding on for dear life. So when you were here last time, you were talking about writing the book. We talked about your music and how your music is basically an anthology of your life and how you feel about things and your observations about things. And and you did a TED Talk, so you're really interested in the observations of life and things like that. But then you decided to write a book, and you talked about it last time, and now it's real.
Well, I know, and you helped me because I was in process when we talked last time, and you have written a book and were kind enough to send it to me and really just shared with me your the sense of like to not completely overthink it and to let things go out into the universe, and I was at that place when we talked last time of feeling like maybe all this work I'd done was for naught and I should just scrap the whole thing. And I was really pretty lost. And, that remark to me and you sharing your experience really helped me. That was very useful.
Cool, because I'm going to ask you to return the favor so I can get my next book out. Because once we're able to go out in the world, I would like that thing done. It's almost there. So
is it? You're just about done?
It's all written now. It just needs to be put together.
Okay, cool.
Which is the hard part because I can't. I got to figure out what to throw out, what's not that important because less is more. But
sure.
It's hard to get there. So why did you write the book? Now that you finally did it, why did you sit down and put that effort in?
Well, I actually discussed this in the intro of the book, but the first reason, which I'm not super proud of, but I just wanted to see if I could do it. So many people I respect have written books, and it was just one of those things. I always thought I'll write a book. I mean, I think so many of us think we will write a book if only we have the time, right?
And most don't. So you got over that to actually write it. So it wasn't just like, I want to see if I could, because it just can't be born that way.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, that was the initial motivation. And the reason that I got it through and I finished is because I have found, as I've found myself here in midlife, I thought, okay, I love playing music. I hope I always do that. But also what I really love is communicating with people. I love sharing what I've learned and having a laugh about mistakes I've made and ideally, hopefully helping people in some way. I mean, that's what we want. We want our lives to mean something. So I kind of realized I didn't just want to do music. What other mediums were there that I could operate in? And that's how I got into speaking more. And then authorship was something that I could do. I wanted to see if that muscle existed for me. Could I write? Could I turn this into writing? It was harder than I thought it would be, because you think, well, I can
Yeah,
talk.
no joke, no
Why
joke.
can't I just write it down and not have it look like something like a junior high paper, like, but that's kind of what writing sometimes looks like when it first comes out, especially. And so, um, that was why I wrote it, though. I wanted to see if I have, if I could use that muscle, and if that might be part of what I do moving forward in the future. And so that's how I got into it. And then like as you know, at some point you're in so far, there's just no turning back.
So right, so now it's a very personal book. I read it, I love it, I hate it because it's so good, and I want to write like that.
Fine.
I'm so impressed with it, and I want people to buy it because it's like sitting at a bar with like just the coolest person and just hearing them talk about life so candidly. It's an exquisite thing to behold. And that's not hyperbole, by the way. It's so hard to find books where you can just sit and relate to the author and see yourself. So I love that. Now that it's done, and now that you went through your entire life over and over and over again for for grammar, for spelling,
Right.
but for nuance, what have you learned?
Well, I mean, I learned a lot, and that was maybe the biggest takeaway from the book, was that the reason to do this stuff is just to do it because it makes your life richer, you know? If someone else doesn't get anything out of it, that's not what I want, but it's also, I got what I needed to get out of it, which was I wanted to firm up my thinking about the topics that are covered in the book. Forgiveness, you know, that's one of the chapters. I could go through each chapter, but it's like forgiveness was huge because I realized the biggest realization I had about forgiveness was you don't forgive someone or something once and then it's done. You have to continue. Forgiveness is something you have to continually practice every day if you want to reap the benefits of forgiveness.
What are the benefits of forgiveness?
Well, the benefits are you don't carry weight. You don't carry the awful poisonous weight of of hating someone or having a grudge, And I thought, I hate forgiving. There's people who I have forgiven that I do not like at all. And I get angry actively about them and what they did to me every day. And then I'm like, well, who am I to talk about forgiveness? And then because had to write about it, I had to do a deeper dive on it. And I realized, wow, forgiveness is something, it's a grace that you get by just, okay, no, I'm going to forgive this person again. And I will have to forgive them again, I'm sure, because like something will trigger it and I'll be mad at them again. And I'll feel that awful, fire in the belly that you get when you're mad at someone. It's just and it breaks down your health and it breaks down your psyche and it distracts you from things that are, life is short. You don't want to spend your time mired in anger and rage towards people, So by learning to practice forgiveness every day, suddenly you realize how to push the weight off, and sometimes it climbs back on. No, I'm going to push you back off, and that was with each topic. I had moments, revelation moments where I thought, aha, this is the heart of this particular important pillar, and so I did that for 12 things in the chapter, and that really helped me. I just learned so much about myself and what I'm aiming at. If I'm not always getting there, I'm still aiming at better things now because I wrote the book.
I love how you look at heroes for yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, when you describe yourself, like I have a 1 octave voice and I decided to be a rock star, right?
Yeah,
Like I would never have known that. I've seen you in concert, right? I hear your records all the time. Never would have known it, like if you hadn't pointed it out.
yeah.
But you decided to go do that, and then when you talk about your heroes, you talk about wanting heroes that are accessible to you.
Mm.
Right? There's the heroes that you should never meet because you really don't need to know what's going on underneath, because then it all is a facade, like Bill Cosby or something like that, right?
Right, sure.
But
Yeah.
then, but you talk about real people.
Hmm. I mean, for me, that's what I need from heroes, and I that was one of those. The chapter on heroes was one where I mean, you question. You don't. I'm not. You're not positive. You're right about anything, and I kind of put that caveat right at the beginning of the book, like no guarantees that I'm correct here. But I have found when you allow your heroes some humanity, you can gain a lot more from them. You can relate to them as people. And so your heroes, and this was something I sort of stumbled on late in thinking about that idea, but they can also be fictional characters. David Copperfield from Charles Dickens is every bit as alive to me as anybody that's ever lived. And a lot of times I turn to that book when I'm trying to be a better person, and that's, I think, sort of the point of allowing heroes to be in our life. It's not to, it's not just for worship, it's for examples of what we should try to strive for.
Jack Ryan was mine.
Okay.
Hunt for Red October.
Is
Clear
that
and Pleasant
okay?
Days. Jack Ryan was totally mine because for me, I was looking for strong male role models with integrity. Like I was looking for that person I could model myself after because I just couldn't find it in real life.
And you found it in the Hunt for Red October. And which character is he in the
Jack
Hunt?
Ryan is through all of Tom Clancy's books.
Okay.
He goes all the way through Clear and Pleasant Danger, all the way through. He's what's his name plays him? John Krasinski plays him on
I wondered. So okay, I'll have to check
Amazon.
that out more. I thought that I didn't realize that's what that was.
Harrison Ford's Jack Ryan, not John Krasinski's Jack Ryan was mine.
Was your guy? Oh, that's cool. I can't wait to watch that again with that in mind, and I'll hit you up after.
But also George Strait was also my hero. Like he embodied, that guy, right? Like
Yep.
that's quiet, and it's who I wanted to be. So I use them just like you use. Like you have a thing for Abraham Lincoln.
I love him. You can't see it, but I'm wearing my Abraham Lincoln belt buckle right now. I put it on days when I need a boost.
Why does Abraham Lincoln boost you?
He's a boost to me because when I consider, and none of this is news, but when I consider that he lost children and his wife was a manic depressive personality, and the country, not for its own good, was tearing at the seams over the absolutely awful issue of slavery and what it meant for the Southern economy. I mean, he was up against it as much as anybody can be up against it. You can't win in that situation. There's just so little that's clearly right and wrong. I mean, slavery's wrong, but and but the absolutes of like, okay, we need to now move out of this and what the right way to handle that situation is. It was just so complex, and he was up against so much, and yet he continued to act with a degree of humility and patience. God, his patience, and how he would write these letters, these vitriolic letters, and then he would tuck them in his desk drawer and not send them, and then he would respond more the way that you want to. And here we are.
And here we thought us new age coaches came up with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was doing it, and and it's, to me, he cuts to all the world's great religions when you go through that. You go, these are the ideals that we're teaching in religion, and a certain tolerance and stuff. And he wasn't a perfect man by any stretch, and there's those who love to point out what he did wrong. But I think on balance, everything that I've read about him and can glean, I just think if he could do it, it can be done. Then he wasn't Tiger Woods. Originally, I wrote about Tiger Woods, and my editor said, you don't need to rip on Tiger Woods here to make your point. And she was right. But it's like, I don't get all excited about someone who was raised to be, like, from the moment they're born, they're raised to do something, and then they do it. And it's like, cool. I understand why that's impressive, but it doesn't move me in any way, shape, or form the way a guy growing up, losing his mother and then just rising to these huge depths where he changes history in such a meaningful way, like an Abe Lincoln. Like, that to me is what I get really excited about.
I'm with you. For me, the heroes are the people who I can learn something from them because I have the lack of tools or the tools, and
Yeah.
if they can do it, I can do it. And that's why, every day people used to ask me, Mark, how did I make, when I was making a lot of money as a sales guy and stuff, they would say, come talk to us about making money and things like that. And I was like, the secret is I'm terrified
Yeah.
every day. And I get up every day and I go work a job that's way bigger than me. And I just fucking do it. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, I'm with you 100%. And there's a saying that my grandfather used to have, a German saying, "Eis im Arsch," which meant ice in ass. Just that feeling of like, I gotta go make things happen today. And that's it. You just show up, man. You just show up every day. For most of us, that's what it's like, and there's these rare birds that seem to have confidence, but you know,
Most people I've met and most people reveal to me what's really going on. Like even George Strait, when I saw him in an interview and they said, you're so cool, calm and collected and all this. He goes, well, you're not living in here.
right.
Right. And he points
Oh,
to himself like he was like not inside. Right.
I love it. I love that. I actually did a George Strait song. I'm forgetting which one we did, but Mark Roberge from OAR and I sat in with him this past fall, and he called me and said, I want to do a George Strait song. And I said, really? That's not very OAR. And he's like, he just, his writing was cutting through Mark in a deep way. I said, well, I'd love to do that. So we sang a George Strait duet together.
Which one?
November. I know I'm gonna have to get back to you on it. I can't remember right now. I'm not as familiar with George Strait's catalog, but after that, I was listening to a bunch. But and I hate to say this, but I just was like letting Spotify do its thing and like take me all around, and I was loving it. And I said, I got to learn more about George Strait, but I'm not a deep connoisseur yet. So
So underrated as a singer. I mean,
yeah,
like he's the most successful country singer besides Garth Brooks of all time, but he's still underrated just as what a masterful singer he is and the way he bends notes and stuff. Really cool.
yeah, I could just tell he was telling the truth. I just felt like this guy's telling the truth.
Four chords and the truth.
You know, so good.
So how did you get your ass on stage when for Train when their lead singer Pat Monahan
Yeah,
was sick and you got yourself on stage to sing those songs?
it was. I mean, I really didn't get myself.
That's
So,
ballsy.
so we're out. It's Train's cruise that they do, right? So they've got 3,500 of their fans, and they bring some other acts. So I'm on the boat with maybe Michael Franti was there that year, or Ingrid Michaelson was there. There was a number of acts. Andy Grammer was there as well, and I had my two oldest girls, came on the boat with me, and so I did all my gigs. I did a gig with Michael Ian Black. We do all this stuff, and I'm done now. I finished for the weekend. I'm feeling pretty happy about that. We're about to go out to Hibachi, and I get a knock on my stateroom door, and it's Train's management, and they said, Pat Monahan has completely lost his voice, and tonight's the big finale concert. What Train songs do you know? We're asking a few people to fill in. Like Ingrid's going to sing a couple, Andy's going to sing a couple. And I talk about ice and ass. I mean, I was like, oh, what? Because Pat Monahan has a huge voice range. We know each other. We're acquaintances, but we're not. We don't know each other well. I don't have the comfort of like, well, they're my friends. They'll like me anyway. I kind of felt like if I screw this up, I'm going to embarrass myself in front of my kids. They're 3,500 biggest fans and the band that hosted me as part of this concert. So I threw out Drops of Jupiter, Are Calling All Angels, and he goes, all right, you're doing those. And he shuts my door and
Oh
walks.
my goodness. That's a tough one. Calling all angels. I don't even know
I
how.
had 2 hours. And so I'm down in my stateroom working on these songs. I'm trying to do them in lower octaves. I'm trying to change. I just couldn't. There was nothing to do except, I mean, I wasn't hitting the notes. It didn't sound good in lower octaves. My kids are looking at me like, uh-oh, Dad. And as I was walking on stage, my daughter, who was 10 at the time, she goes, you got this, Dad. And that saying at that time was a little less, people weren't using it quite as much. It
Hmm.
was like at the beginning of when people started using that. And it cut right through me like, all right, I'm not gonna let her down. And I went out and I didn't hit all the notes, but I had a hell of a time. I mean, I things I hadn't been able to do in my room 2 hours earlier. I just went for it in grand fashion, and I'm grateful for the memory. It was fun, you know. It was fun to rock that crowd, and you know.
So what's the lesson to walk away with from that?
Well, you know, you don't. It's the Wayne Gretzky lesson. You know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You know, you just get up there. It's like, you know, you just got to go for things and try.
That's let's not. Oh, fuck it, just go for it. Like we're gonna die tomorrow or 10 years.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. No,
Just
it's just not. It's to your
how
quote that
often do you get to be the lead singer of Train, right?
we're tiny. You know, we're not. These are good. It's all going to be memories someday, and then it won't be memories. Then it will be just the life that you lived, and it will
Mm.
be forgotten. We'll all be forgotten at some point. You know, we're not going to be remembered, and that can flatten you, or that can be a comfort. Like, you know, don't. I've seen it articulated so many different ways. There's a relatively not that well-known movie called We Bought a Zoo. And the Matt Damon's character talks about 10 seconds of insane bravery is all you need, you know? And I think of that a lot.
Half of anything I've accomplished was that 10 seconds,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
totally agree. I'm like, oh, what did I get myself into? And then in hindsight, I'm like, I'm so glad I got myself into that. The exhilaration afterwards.
Yeah. And you have to be prepared for the fact that sometimes you will miss, you will fall short, you will embarrass yourself. Like, um, Rosanne Cash asked me to sing a duet with her once, and I sang the duet, and it went great. Standing ovation. She's looking me right in the eye. I'm thinking, this is that Johnny Cash blood. I can't believe this is happening. This is great. We walk off stage, and she says, and the crowd won't stop clapping. She says, "Do you know Big River?" Now, I do know Big River. I've heard the song many times over the years. So, in a flash of like, hey, I said, yeah. And she said, let's go do it. And I walked out, and the crowd's
Oh
excited.
no, no,
Another
no.
duet. But what I didn't calculate is that I don't really know the words of Big River at all. And I stood up there, and it really went poorly. And we walked off stage, and her husband, John Leventhal, who's a great producer and a great songwriter, goes, yeah, you know Big River, all right. I mean, pretty dicky thing to say, but also I deserved it. I had miscalculated, and that's more of what I remember that night than the beautiful duet.
Sure, of course.
So sometimes you make a mistake, and nothing to be done. You know, you gotta, but you gotta still go for it, because more often than not, it does work out, and you make a great memory. You know.
Brene Brown wrote a series of books, on vulnerability, and then she wrote a book called Daring Greatly.
Oh, I love it. I
And
love
then
that.
but then what happened is she wrote a book called Rising Strong. And she was asked why she wrote the book Rising Strong. She says, because I got all these letters from people that said I dared greatly and I crashed and burned.
Oh
Like
God.
I did it, Brene. I dared, and like I lost everything. And she's like rising, so she's realized I got to go figure out what to do because these people are going and
Right, to set
trying
it up.
stuff.
Well, and that's the thing. I was, before we started our interview, I was lamenting how impatient I am with humanity and people, really, because I mean, it's like the person that spills hot coffee on themselves and sues the restaurant, and you're like, really? Like, are you not going to take any responsibility? Like, you have to know there's a risk. You can't be mad at the person who said go for it. You've got to take responsibility for your life too,
That's
and
what
that
that's
is
one of the agreements in my coaching thing is any decisions, any choices you make, because people get really excited when they coach with me and they're about to go move to Bermuda and weave baskets for the rest of their lives. Like
right.
I got nothing to do with those choices. Take
These are
responsibility for
your
everything.
choices. Like, I'm going to help you realize that these are options, but you got to make your own damn choice. And I feel that way. And I am very impatient with people that don't take, I feel like if you read Daring Greatly and then you dared greatly and you lost, but But it's cool that she wrote the second book. I haven't read that one yet, but I will look forward to that.
So how do you want to be remembered? What's the legacy you want now that you've written your book? It's almost like your memoir, your stamp on humanity. You got your girls and everything. How do you want to be remembered?
Well, and this may sound counterintuitive, but I think I've reduced my expectations of how I want to be remembered a lot. I'm not really thinking about it because I don't have a lot of. In my chapter about legacy, I'd say there's your intended legacy of what you're hoping to be remembered for, and your unintended legacy of what is just happening and what you will be remembered for, whether you like it or not.
And
And
the way you put it was really good. Is your unintended legacy just creeps out in all directions, and you
yeah,
have no control over that.
yeah,
It was really an interesting thing about your life is your life, and it's going to speak for itself.
yeah. It's good. And so I find myself, Mark, thinking more right now about what kind of life am I trying to live. I'm not really. I think at one point I was kept thinking about my place in history, and it was just like kind of a distraction that I don't need. It's like in the immediate, how can I raise the kids around me? How can I make people happy today? How can I bring them some joy? How can I use the talents that I have in a way that supports my life and helps the lives of others? And I would love it if my example is a legacy that is useful to people younger than me, to whoever's here when I'm gone. But
You know how I know that's true?
how?
Because of your heroes, because of you being enamored with Abraham Lincoln and the way you talk about Abraham Lincoln, right? That tells me more about who you are, what you aspire to, what you care about, than actually, what you tell me about yourself. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
true with all people. Like if he moves you that much that you'll wear his belt buckle and you'll talk about him in a book, now I know what your value system is. Now I know what's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. It's a great, observation about people really that you have there. But and that's, I guess, what I hope. I hope my children are able to observe some good stuff. I also know that, there are, from the amount of times when they ask me, Dad, I don't think you were there when we're discussing things that I was at. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm at your birthday parties, guys. Like, I've made them all. But it lets me know that, you know, I don't have a lot of there's certain things I really don't have any control over. So I'm just going to do what I'm doing the best I can do it, and really hope that we're planting lots of good seeds as we go.
So you lucked. On one hand, you lucked out. You met the girl of your dreams. You married the girl of your dreams, even though it took her a longer time than you to figure out that she was in love with you. Right?
Yeah.
I love that story.
I never let her forget that.
Now it's written down. You got to read the book to find out the story, because it's just really charming. She seems so lovable, just and candid. But you also said that it was a choice to marry and love someone for the rest of your life. Like you did. This isn't a Disney movie where you met the girl of your dreams and you lived happily ever after.
Hmm.
Right? You make a choice to be in that relationship. You make a choice to be the dad. You make a choice to be at all the baseball, all the birthday parties and the
Right.
games and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I struggled writing those chapters on marriage and on kids, because I know that I've done. I mean, some of it. There's a little bit of luck in all this. There's a little bit of. I can't take credit necessarily for, like, because I did this, I have a great marriage. I happen to have married a really good match for me, and so it's worked easier than it is for a lot of folks. And I really struggled with writing about that stuff and talking about it, because I want it to be useful, but I don't want to be on a soapbox or seem to be judging people who haven't had success with that.
By the way, I can rest assured because I was reading with a critical eye. I'm like, who the fuck is he to talk about raising children and
Right,
marriage and all that stuff?
right.
And you threaded that needle so well with humility and candor. And it's real. And I was talking about it to my partner through, while I was reading, just going, this is a really good point about just understanding that your partner is going to be quirky. You can't hide the quirks. There's going to be things that drive you crazy, and
Yeah.
you've got to work to accept them.
Yeah.
Because
Well, yeah, because you're going to do better with that. And so I wanted to like make these observations. I appreciate that you didn't feel that way. We're our toughest critic, but there are still things I think about, like, could I have said that better, or in a way that was, but at some point it does occur to me, like, okay, if you're coming to this book and you found me and my particular unique brand of what I put in the world here, you know, I'm here to tell you, like, if you're in striking distance of a good marriage, here are some thoughts that might help even better. You know, if you're
if you're holding a pair of jacks, I
yeah,
can help you.
yeah, exactly. So, but if you're coming to me, if you are walk to me with something that is utterly and emphatically broken, like, you might just need to
I
fold.
have 3 shows on marriage counseling. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah, well, good. And people should tune in and take those. And I never am purporting to fix. I mean, I have friends who definitely should be divorced. Like, no questions. Like, they had chosen each other incorrectly. There sometimes aren't ways to make a marriage work. And it doesn't necessarily it's not because they're bad people. But things, people choose wrong, and that's a thing. But also, I have friends who I really think just were looking, I just think they just didn't have the right tools to maybe make something that, and I think it's become a point of sadness to think back, like, I let something go, and maybe we could have worked it out, and
No
because they
question.
were good together, and shit gets hard, but it's like, there are some systems that can at least give it a shot to
So
really,
what's the blue collar advice that you'll leave people with
on marriage, or
on
on
relationship? Yeah.
relationships. Yeah. I mean, I would say the biggest thing is, you have to adapt some degree of self-awareness, and go, what am I bringing to this? What do I need? And what is this person who I chose to marry, like, what do they need? And what are they bringing to it? Even if you're pissed at the person, and I thought that movie Marriage Story was really good, in the beginning, when they both had to make lists of what they loved about each other.
Mm.
And they were coming there for a divorce, but they had to start with, this is what's good about this person. That made me really want to begin. If you begin there, what is good about this person? You say it. What, you married them, there must have been something good. Find your way back to that for a minute, and do the same thing with yourself. What am I doing that's good here, and what are my needs that aren't being met? I mean, you need to communicate. It's such a cliche, but there's just no, it doesn't have to be touchy feely communication, but you need to say, in your own way, what it is you want, and what's your hope, what's wrong, like, put some thought, put some effort into it. Don't
The bottom line piece that I got out of the book, when I love, and I read this stuff all the time, so I'm constantly like gleaning this, and it was refreshing the way you just put it. Is you find out what your partner needs, what are the non-negotiable, what do they need, and then give it to them.
Yeah, just give it to them. Don't be such a stingy ass. It's like,
And
well,
that was profound to me.
yeah, okay, well, that's good. I mean, it was profound to me when I got there too, because I thought, I realized I haven't asked my wife what her dreams are in years. You know, I had, and then one day, when I was stumbling on this kind of insight, really because I was looking for my own needs that weren't being met, and I was like, well, I need this and I need that, and then I was like, uh oh, have I asked her what her needs are? And I hadn't. And then I was like, what do you need? And she's kind of like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, no, but really, come on. Like, what do you need? And her needs were so modest. It was like, well, exercise is important. And sometimes I'd be like, you're going to go work out now. We have stuff to do. I mean, you just realize all of a sudden that's an easy fix. Why have I been so selfish for so long, you know? And you can just fix it. And it
Mm.
kind of gets better almost immediately because an effort is being made, you know?
Cool. So now you're a road warrior rock star, right? It's not like you're sitting home, counting your millions from from being the biggest star of the '80s. You got an incredible following, right? But you make your money on the road, and you're staying home. What's cool and what's interesting that's going on in your world now, besides
Well,
the new book coming out?
we are, the book is big, obviously, and we're filling these orders, but all these orders had been ordered, over the last year and a half. So now one of the goals is, okay, we've got to start selling this book now, and hopefully sharing this book with one of the goals, to your earlier question with writing a book, was, could there be an audience that maybe doesn't like the type of music I play, but who might like what I have to say in the world? And this was one of the ways to do that. So that's one thing that's going on. And we had a book tour planned for this, which, like the rest of the world right now, in the age of Corona, we obviously had to cancel all that. But what we decided to do was to go up with all of these dates as a virtual experience. And rather than just jump on a social media and say, hey, I'm here and we're doing this, I've spent the last month really trying to figure out, how do we do this really well, where technologically the audio and the video is great. How can we still have interaction? Like for the Q&A stuff we were going to do, how can we work it out so that people can do that, so that every night can feel like a totally different
And
show?
and you're doing a virtual tour anyway, right?
This was supposed to be for the book, so this has become, it was called the Experience Tour because it was going to be a little bit of music, some of the book, but now what it's become is the Virtual Experience Tour. And we're capping shows so that they can be intimate, so that every night you get your requests, and we're doing meet and greets where I get on Zoom with 15 people before and after the show, and we
So cool.
we chat, and I'm just trying to make the best of the situation for others and for myself, just like what we're doing in life here is what I want to do with this tour. And just this morning, because we realized this is going to work. Like, it's been a hard month. I'm not a tech guy, but we've got something pretty amazing planned for people. And once we got there, we just added 3 dates this morning. And I said, let's do London live from Big Ben, and we'll do it at a time so that it's good for people in England. And let's do, we're going to do a live from Mount Rushmore on Memorial Day weekend. And so we're really going to we're having fun with it. I'm building out each show as its own,
Nice.
almost like it's like a night, like a late night show or something like that, and I'll talk about the book and hopefully tell some jokes and sing some songs and take some questions. And I mean, I'm pretty excited about it, all things considered,
You look at if people could see the video, you do look at it. So when does the book come out?
The book got pushed back to July 7th now as its official release.
But
And
can people get a copy, or was it just the advanced orders?
no, they can get a copy now at the Kellogg Family Store. At our online store is the only place that will have it prior.
I'll put that in the show notes so people can click on it, because it's really, if you've never heard Stephen's music, the book is really that good. I would have had him on the show if I had not seen him in concert and become a fan, just because the wisdom and the honesty in the book is just really useful.
Oh, Mark,
Which
thank you so much for
which
that, man.
which is important. And when he does get back on the road, please go out and see him. I have never seen a crowd so engaged in all my life. It's like he's the Grateful Dead with his following. I mean, hand gestures and oh my God, it's so good. Everybody singing every word to every song. Objects in the Mirrors, incredible album, which you can get on anywhere that you can get music, and on the Family Store. So, Stephen, thanks for always spending time with me.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for your enthusiasm, your kindness, and for helping me put this out in the world, and for sending me your book. And I wish you so much luck with your new one that's on its way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You'll get a signed copy then too. Dude, have a great day. Put more books in the mail and have fun with your family.
I will, man. See you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Hey, see you.
To everybody else, thank you for your time and attention. It's precious to me. I love you and have a great rest of the day.